It's D-U-E-U tell. I see you by this point, you're reading my mind. It's time for football. We about to keep this thing moving. I'm about it, you're with it, let's do it. We gon' make this thing official, you heard me? If you're the best, then let's prove it. The goal is set to have a team become a unit, man. We about to keep this thing moving. I'm about it, you're with it, let's do it. We gon' make this thing official, you heard me? If you're the best, then let's prove it. The goal is set to have a team become a unit, yeah.
Welcome to Football Game Plan's NFL All 32 show. I am Emery Hunt, the czar of the playbook, and we're only a week away from the Super Bowl matchup between the Kansas City Chiefs and Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So I thought this week we'll focus on the 2021 NFL Draft and some All-Star games that are happening right now this week at the Senior Bowl and the Hula Bowl. So we'll get things kicked off with our mock draft, starting with teams 1 through 15, and we'll kick it off with number 1, the Jacksonville Jaguars. First, let's take a look at the mock draft rules. Number 1, the picks are based off what I would do as GM, not what I think will happen or what will happen, what I would do if I was GM of that particular team. And what you're seeing is players that are using the Football Game Plan Scouting Draft Board. Now, granted, we're still working through this process, so this is just a little bit of an overview of where I think these guys are suited to play or how highly I think of these guys, so it has nothing to do on the final grade, which will be out later in February. And the picks are based off what I believe the team needs are, not any fictional needs, just what I look at the roster and what I think they need to help them get better. There are no trades, it's only a mock draft, and that ties into number 5. Again, it's only a mock draft, so just chill out, relax, and enjoy the show. And like we said, we're going to start with Jacksonville, who owned the number 1 overall pick, and this was a no-brainer. You look at the quarterback, Trevor Lawrence. I think the Jaguars have a lot of talent on their roster already. They just need someone to stabilize the quarterback position, and they get one of the more polished quarterbacks to come out in quite some time in Trevor Lawrence, who's battle-tested, played a lot of games, and has played some winning football while at Clemson. The Jets are on the clock, and I think they also need a quarterback, especially when you're looking to try to make a move for Sam Darnold and try to move him somewhere for some more picks. Why not just grab the best quarterback outside of Trevor Lawrence, and that's Justin Fields. Again, another one of these guys that's battle tested, that has the it factor, won a lot of games at Ohio State, and fits the mold of today's new age quarterback. The Dolphins are on the clock, and they own 2 picks in the first round, and I wanted to get creative with how I want to address what their team needs are. I think they need to get faster, more explosive on the perimeter, so why not pair up Tua Tagovailoa with his old teammate in Devonta Smith, the 2020 Heisman Trophy winner. When you talk about having that continuity with the quarterback and receiver, this is the best you can get. A guy that played with the quarterback in college. He's dynamic. He can play inside or outside, and he almost immediately upgrades their athleticism, explosiveness out there on the perimeter, and in turn, you'll see a much better Tua Tagovailoa in year 2. The Falcons could be in the market for a quarterback here at pick number 4, but I wouldn't take a quarterback that high considering the dead cap that Matt Ryan has left on his contract. So I wanted to go with the best player available route. And when you look at what Arthur Smith just came from in Tennessee with running the football, I look to the offensive line. Penei Sewell out of Oregon fits the mold. Now you have 3 legit first-round young talents up front. You're talking about Penei Sewell out of Oregon, Chris Lindstrom out of Boston College, and Caleb McGarry out of Washington, along with the former first-round pick Jake Matthews at tackle. So you solidify the offensive line, and you'll be able to get the much better play out of Matt Ryan and also help springboard that run game into a much better output in 2021. Next up are the Cincinnati Bengals, who probably will be kicking themselves if Penei Sewell just gets snatched up by the Atlanta Falcons. But staying along the offensive line, Christian Darrisaw out of Virginia Tech may be the best total offensive tackle in this draft class, and they land themselves a steal with the former Virginia Tech Hokie, and they can plug and play him right there on the right side to help protect Joe Burrow, help also springboard that run game or spearhead that run game, and keep him protected on both ends of offense. So he's one of the cleaner tackle prospects in the draft class. I'm excited to see where he goes at the next level. Now let's take a look at picks 6 through 10. The Philadelphia Eagles get help on the perimeter on the defensive side of football in Patrick Surtain Jr. out of Alabama. His dad played in the NFL for a long time, but they need help at cornerback, and they get one of the top corners in the draft class right there at pick number 6, plug and play guy. So is Zach Wilson with the announcement that Matt Stafford will be moving on from Detroit. Detroit needs a quarterback, and they get one right here in Zach Wilson, who has Tremendous game on both ends of offense, can throw, can run. He will fit right into what Dan Campbell wants to do with that franchise. And Caleb Farley, another outstanding athlete that has the length, the ball skills because he played receiver and would plug and play right there in Carolina. I also like Micah Parsons out of Penn State at linebacker for the Broncos. To me, that's a need that they can fill with one of the best players at the position. And when we look at the Dallas Cowboys, I think their offensive line may be a slight question mark heading into the draft. So why not add another pure tackle prospect in Rashawn Slater out of Northwestern, who does a great job on both ends. But in the run game, he's excellent. I think that ties into what they want to do offensively with not only Dak Prescott, but also Ezekiel Elliott. The New York Giants are at pick number 11, and you want to get help for Daniel Jones. You get him one of the best pure wide receivers in the draft class in Jamar Chase out of LSU, just because he opted out of the 2020 season. I feel like a lot of people forgot how dominant this dude was in 2019. You talk about a guy that had over 20 plus touchdown receptions, knew when he was getting the football, and he still was able to make defenders look silly out there on the perimeter. He can go deep, he can go short, he can work the possession game if you need him to. And that's the type of bona fide number one that Daniel Jones needs out there on the perimeter, because it will slide Darius Slayton to a more suitable wide receiver 2 role. You have Sterling Shepard in the slot. You also have a good tight end in Evan Ingram. So now your offense on the perimeter looks a lot dangerous, a lot more dynamic, all because you added a bona fide stud in Jamar Chase. Looking at picks 12 through 16, and some tremendous talent here as well. I think the Chargers get their running back, their franchise running back in Najee Harris, a guy that can do it all. You talk about running the football, catching the football. He's a good blocker. I think he would help transform that offensive attack. And when you look at Kyle Pitts going to New England, he's a guy that can play tight end. Some see him as a bigger wide receiver. Either way, for whoever's quarterback in that football team, they'll have themselves the premier option, a dangerous weapon, not only inside the red zone, but even within the 20-20. We'll take a quick break and be back with more Football Game Plan's NFL All 32 show. Football Game Plan is brought to you in part by Ninth and Lux. Visit the website ninethandlux.com and check out the clothing gallery. Do You Music with featured artist IW and his latest album, Season 2. You can check that out on iTunes as well as doyoumusic.com. Nesby Phipps, art, life, entertainment. NesbyPhipps.com. Grind It Out Fitness. Visit the website grinditoutfitness.com and download the app. Let's continue with our Football Game Plan mock draft, and now we're on the back end of the mock draft, teams 16 through 32, as well as some teams that don't have first round picks this season. The Las Vegas Raiders are up at pick number 17. I think they have to address the defensive line, the pass rush more in particular. They drafted Cleveland Ferrell 2 years ago at the 4th overall selection. He hasn't really panned out. He's been solid, but not dynamic. They got a steal in Max Crosby on the opposite side. That's why I believe Jalen Phillips out of Miami would be the perfect bookend to Max Crosby. He is able to bring it off the edge. He plays strong versus the run. And I believe his arrow, as far as upside is concerned, is definitely pointing upward. So being able to grab him here would help that defensive line tremendously in 2021. Moving on to picks 18 through 22 and looking at the Dolphins with their second first round pick, I went defensive line with Christian Barmore out of Alabama. He's a guy that is so disruptive up front. He'll allow everyone along that defensive front to do their job exceptionally well. Wide receiver Jalen Waddle could have that same impact for the Washington football team on offense. When you think about what they need more explosiveness on the perimeter. They already have a guy in Terry McLaurin who is tremendous. Adding him with Waddle could give them the best 1-2 punch on the perimeter in the division, arguably in the division, because you know the Dallas Cowboys are sitting right there. And how about Trey Lance going to Chicago? I think that's an ideal fit for him because of his upside, because of what he can do athletically, and pairing him up with Matt Nagy could be the best marriage for a quarterback-coach combination. The Jets are back on the clock with their second first-round pick. I went quarterback with pick number 2. Now I'm going running back with Travis Etienne out of Clemson. He's the explosive playmaker, and when you have a guy that's a home run waiting to happen, paired up with a mobile quarterback, you're going to get a guy that's going to average well over 5.5 yards a carry. The Jets need someone that can really be a game breaker in the backfield, and I believe Etienne will give them that in spades. Just chugging right along in this mock draft, and the Steelers get a plug-and-play interior offensive lineman in Landon Dickerson. He could be the eventual replacement for Pouncey, who's considering retirement at the center position. How about getting Lamar Jackson some outstanding weapons on the perimeter, and Terrence Marshall out of LSU, who stepped up big time this year for the Tigers and could do the same within that Ravens offense. And if you allow Sean Payton and that Saints offensive attack to get a guy like Kadarius Toney, it could be lights out for the NFC and the NFL as a whole. And as we move on to picks 29 through 32, just rounding out this first round mock draft, Jalen Twyman opted out of the season for Pitt, but man, he gets the most sacks for any interior defensive lineman that I've seen in quite some time. And how about the Bills getting Gregory Rousseau out of Miami? I think he's more of a project, so he's going to need time to groom, and he would land in an ideal spot with the Bills at pick number 30. And you see 31 and 32, that's for Tampa and Kansas City. It's not a prediction, but it's just where they're slated to go right now in this mock draft. Wyatt Davis falling this far would be almost a steal for the Bucs to help strengthen their offensive line. And getting edge help with Joseph Asai out of Texas just helps strengthen that Chiefs defense coming off the edge. And like I said before, there are some teams that don't have first round picks this year: the Rams, the Texans, and the Seahawks. So we want to include them in our mock draft. Getting defensive line help with Jason Owea out of Penn State for the Rams, helping them provide that pass rush, just like Patrick Jones out of Pitt will do. I think he was a direct beneficiary of Twyman not being there this season, because he was able to stand out and showcase that he can get it done without the help of a double team on the interior. And Eric Stokes from Georgia, tall corner, 6'2", 190, fits the mold of what Seattle wants on the outside. He will help bolster the secondary out there in the Pacific Northwest. So that's it for this edition of Football Game Plan's NFL All 32 show. I am Emery Hunt, the czar of the playbook. Be sure to follow me on all of my social media accounts, and don't forget to check out and subscribe to the Football Game Plan Network located at youtube.com/footballgameplan. Also subscribe on iTunes to Football Game Plan Podcast and leave us a 5-star rating. And before we get out of here, this is our 150th episode here on the Game Plus Network, and I want to thank you guys, the fans and Game Plus Network, for showing support for Football Game Plan throughout the last 2 seasons.
It's you tell I see you by this point, you're reading my mind. It's time for football. We about to keep this thing moving. I'm about it, you're with it, let's do it. We gon' make this thing official, you heard me? If you're the best, then let's prove it. The goal is set to have a team become a unit, man. We about to keep this thing moving. I'm about it, you're with it, let's do it. We gon' make this thing official, you heard me? If you're the best, then let's prove it. The goal is set to have a team become a unit, yeah.